So first I'll be talking about normal ABGs that are uncompensated. So if you remember from Nursing 1 that a normal ABG is, normal pH is 7.35 to 7.45. Any pH that is less than 7.35 is going to be acidotic, and anything greater than 7.45 is going to be alkalotic. That's going to be your primary acid-base imbalance. So when you're analyzing an ABG, you always want to look at the pH first and determine whether your primary acid-base imbalance is acidosis or alkalosis. So if I give you an example, first example, the pH is going to be 7.32, the PCO2 will be 64, and the bicarb or the HCO3 is 24. So you first want to look at the pH, and you know that 7.32, it's less than 7.35, so that means that it is the primary acid-base imbalance is acidosis. Now your PCO2, your CO2 comes from your lungs, and CO2 is an acid. And so your normal CO2 is 35 to 45. If you have too much CO2 because it's an acid, then you're going to be acidotic. If you have not enough CO2 because it's an acid, if you have low CO2, then you're going to be alkalotic because you don't have enough acid. And your bicarb, the normal bicarb level is 22 to 26. Bicarb is alkalosis or basic. It's the base in your body. It is what counteracts the acid of the CO2. So if you have too much bicarb, then that individual is going to be alkalotic. And if you don't have enough bicarb, then they're going to be acidotic because the body doesn't have enough base. So therefore, we start back. We know that this is an acidotic ABG. So we then look at our PCO2, and it's 64. Now, the normal CO2 is 35 to 45, and CO2 is an acid. So in this instance, our CO2 level is high. And because we know that CO2 is an acid, then we know that, that this creates acidosis. If we look into our bicarb, we know the normal bicarb level is 22 to 26. So this is a normal level. So we know that this is respiratory acidosis because our CO2 is high. And that creates acidosis, and we know that the CO2 comes from our lungs. We either we get rid of CO2 by exhaling, and in this instance, the person is unable to get rid of their CO2. Just as a refresher, your bicarb is primarily controlled by your kidneys, and when we get to compensation, we'll talk about how your lungs can compensate much more quickly than your kidneys can, because your brain can speed up or slow down your respiratory rate. So this is respiratory acidosis. And it's uncompensated. In this instance, the pH is going to be 7.48. The PCO2 will be 32, and the bicarb will be, again, 24. So we'll start with our pH, 7.48. It's greater than 7.45, meaning that the primary acid-base imbalance is alkalosis because it's higher than 7.45. If you move to the CO2 is 32, and our normal CO2 is 35 to 45, and CO2 is an acid, so we don't have enough CO2 in this instance. And if we know that CO2 is an acid, if you don't have enough acid, then you're going to be alkalotic or basic. So we know that without even having to look at our bicarb, we already know that this person is in respiratory alkalosis. But we'll go over here to our bicarb, and our bicarb is 24, and the normal bicarb is 22 to 26. So we know that this is respiratory alkalosis. Now, in this example, the pH is going to be 7.33. The PCO2 is 38, and the bicarb is 20. So we start with our pH. The pH is 7.33, which makes that less than 7.35. So we know that our primary acid-base imbalance is acidosis. We move to our CO2. We know that the normal CO2 is 35 to 45. So our CO2 in this instance is normal. So we move to our bicarb, and we know that bicarb, the normal is 22 to 26. Bicarb is our base, and so in this instance, the bicarb is too low. So if you don't have enough base, then you're going to be acidotic. So both of these things match up. This indicates acidosis, this is acidosis, so this person is in metabolic acidosis. Because the problem is the amount of bicarb that we have. In the last example, the pH will be 7.47. The PCO2 will be 36. And the bicarb is 28. So we start with our pH, 7.47, that's greater than 7.45. So that means our primary acid-base imbalance is alkalosis. The PCO2 is 36, and the normal CO2 is 35 to 45, so that is normal. So we move on to our bicarb, and our bicarb is 28. So normal bicarb is 22 to 26. Bicarb is a base. Too much base makes us alkalotic or basic, and we know that this bicarb level is high. So this person is going to be in metabolic alkalosis because the problem is that the bicarb level is too high.